All right, we're going to talk a little bit more now about big projects and goals, specifically about breaking things down into digestible chunks is the first piece of this. So for example, learn Chinese sounds terrible and impossible and totally overwhelming, but learn 10 new Chinese words per day sounds much more doable. So of course that's a rather extreme example, but if you break things down into small enough pieces that you can actually digest them, that you can actually understand them and see how you might complete them, you can make things much, much more possible. So for example, when I was just starting to learn Chinese a couple of months ago, I set myself goals with respect to socialization. I set myself for goals with respect to culture and learning about culture, speaking, reading, as well as moving through the culture in ways such as knowing what road signs meant and things on the menu were. So I split my project up into chunks that I could understand, and I set myself a number of words or characters per day, which was small enough that I could do it, but hard enough that I needed to work to get there. The second piece of this is to add some public accountability. We are much, much more likely to complete goals and complete projects that we share with other people. So I could very easily have kept my Chinese learning to myself and not had to be accountable to anybody. Instead, I put it up on my blog and also put it on my Facebook page. I created goals for Chinese for the first 3 weeks and the first 10 weeks. And I put those basic goals up on Facebook and told everybody what I was up to. And the other thing that I did, public accountability, was that I got myself a learning partner. So I have a friend here in Taiwan who is also trying to learn Chinese, and he's quite serious about it. And so he and I would check in with each other at the end of every day. And at that time, his goal was to have had at least one conversation entirely in Mandarin by the end of the day, a meaningful conversation. And my goal was to have studied for 3 hours. And so we would just check in with each other. Did you study for 3 hours today? He would text me, and I would text him. Did you have at least one conversation entirely in Mandarin today? And it doesn't sound like much, and it sounds really easy, but it's actually a lot harder to do than it sounds like it is. And it's very powerful motivator to know that somebody is going to check in on you, or that you've told people that you were going to do something. Now, with respect to those Facebook goals and the goals that I put up on my on my blog, I did not meet those goals. I met. I think it ended up being about 70% of those 3-week goals, and I'm still working on the 10-week goals. But still, the fact that I was able to get as far as I was partly because I said it publicly, and now I know that I'm going to be able to share with people, hey, here's how I did, and they already know kind of where I was starting from. So with respect to big projects, do a little bit every single day, even if it's only 5 minutes a day. So I'm still on my Chinese project, but I've basically stopped my studying. I'm certainly not doing any 3 hours a day. I'm not even studying an hour a day at this point. But I am consciously still using every little bit of Chinese that I've learned. I'm paying attention. Even if I can only put in 5 minutes a day, 10 minutes a day of paying attention to the Chinese around me, since that was a goal of mine and was important to me, that's something that I want to continue. And with big projects and long-term goals like this, even you will have time periods, not just in the day, but also in the weeks and the months and the year, where you will have ebb and flow. So at this point, I'm in a low point for studying Chinese, but a month ago I was studying 3 hours a day and having no problems with that. And hopefully, again in the future, I'll come back to the 3 hours a day. But if I don't, I'm just going to keep on my 5 to 10 minutes a day to get as far as I can. We tend to, so another piece of that is to work out timelines in advance and write them down. This is part of the having digestible pieces of the project that you can actually understand. So if you work those out, in advance and write them down, then it's much easier to see if you've met them. When you make goals measurable and give them a timeline, it's much easier to track progress. When you're designing these timelines, you should make them realistic but challenging. You want to keep it in the yellow zone. You want to be challenging yourself. You want to be learning things. You want to be working toward new goals, but you don't want to be putting yourself into a complete overwhelmed state either.